That's helpful. When I was actually listening to your podcast a few days ago, there was a moment where I can't remember whether it was you or your co-host said this, but that when you jump into a relationship, if you've been in a relationship for a long time and now you're single, you can almost be a habit to want to sort of jump in right again and kind of pick up where you left off almost. And I think on the I think it was you yourself who said you end up skipping over a lot of the fun stuff.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's really true. So I think the example I gave in the podcast is, let's say that you and your partner make pancakes every Saturday morning. Well, now you have a new person who's sleeping over and you're like, hey, let's make pancakes. You're not even giving yourself a chance to form a new routine with a new person. You're just falling into your same routine, but with a new person. And I think you're cheating yourself and that person out of the idea of discovering new things. So
Mm,
it's, and I think emotionally too, let's say, I don't know how often you and your wife talk throughout the day, but let's say you're used to, calling each other a few times throughout the day. You might just start off calling your new person that many times a day. Whereas if you hadn't had that experience, you probably wouldn't be communicating that often. So
yes.
it's like a false intimacy that we project onto the new person because of what we just came out of.
Interesting. Yes, that's really good advice. Yeah, we can. It'd be easy, I imagine, to want to pick up where you left off, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said, there's a lot of fun and richness, and new things you can learn about yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you can find something better than making pancakes in the morning.
Yes.
Maybe lying in bed's actually more fun for you. Who knows? Learning
Yeah.
the new habits. Yeah.
Yep.
More generally, and again, this is a general broad question, but as a therapist with a lot of experience, is there anything that you would say to people who are wanting to better their lives that don't know where to begin? And we're all so multifaceted. There's a lot of different people. We're all different, and we all have different strengths, different challenges. But there are also sort of commonalities. Is there any one kind of key, interesting, kind of cool bit of advice that you've learned in your experience that, this kind of works? You said paying attention in dating, that works. If someone's wanting to improve their life, and obviously without delving into the nuances of that person, is there anything you've said, this is good, just if you can start here, this tends to work for people? Is there-
So I think that there are a couple of things. One is paying attention to patterns. So, and conversely, paying attention to anomalies. So let's say that um, you have five best friends and you're fighting with four of them at all times. That's a pattern. So you probably want to pay attention to that. And you're the common denominator there. So just taking a look at, like, oh, am I doing something that's causing me to have conflict in all these relationships? If you have five best friends and you argue with one of them, that's the anomaly, right? Like, mostly you get along with people, but there's this one person you don't get along with. So noticing, is there something I'm doing? Is this person triggering something in me? Or is this a person that maybe I need to have around less because I they're not bringing positivity into my life? So that, I think that's just a general thing, is when something causes a struggle or pain, that's an important thing for us to look at. And it's probably an opportunity for us to learn something and grow from it.
Mm, yes, that's interesting. If um, when we're starting dating, or you're starting, and I say we, I mean, I've, like I said, it's been 14 years, so it's not, I'm very much out the game, I suppose, at this point. But it's important, I think, for people to observe red flags and be able to even recognize what a red flag is. What are some red flags for people in relationships? And off the back of your answer as well, it's interesting because that could also be a pattern. If you're always picking the wrong guy, you're always picking the wrong woman, there's red flags in that pattern there. What would you have to say
Mm-hmm.
about that?
Yeah, a few things. One, I saw this funny meme on Instagram that said, I saw the red flags, but I thought it was a carnival.
That's funny.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
It
looked
looks
like fun,
great.
so I
It
went
looks
there.
fun. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So, and yes, I think that I have a belief that the universe will keep sending us teachers until we get the lesson. And so if you keep picking people that have the same red flags, it's like, oh, there's something here that you're not learning. So the universe just keeps sending you a new teacher until you're ready to learn it. So some common red flags I would say are people who don't have relationships in their life. Going back to what I said before, maybe you have one friend that you've gotten in a fight with, but if you're an adult and you don't have any friends that you've been able to keep over the long haul, something's probably going on there that you don't have the ability to maintain relationships. Or, someone, sometimes people just come from difficult family situations, but if you're disconnected from everyone in your family and you are disconnected from all of the friends that you've had throughout your life, that's something to pay attention to.
Mm.
Someone who immediately throws themselves into your world, that's a sign that they probably don't have a solid world of their own. So that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Um, Someone who shuts down and is unable to communicate about their feelings is can be a big red flag. Someone who's not able to speak up about what they want.
Right.
So, there are things that you just pay attention to, and usually we have all the information up front, but we
Yeah.
selectively pay attention, and we
Interesting.
ignore the things that don't fit with what we want to believe. And then later we're like, oh man, I knew that from the first date.
That's so interesting. I kind of have heard before, and I think this is true, that if you're in therapy after 10 years or 15 years, the problems were kind of there at the beginning. There was always the seed, and if you can go back and in the early days, we get sort of blinded by the love feelings and you want to just be with them all the time. But there's maybe that little stone, that little pebble in your shoe that you can feel that there's something there. I was speaking to a friend about this, and the analogy I use is like, if you're going on a date with someone and they're great and they're wonderful and they're charismatic and you've got all this love, but they're rude to waiters, let's say, and it's something you pick up on. That's the type of thing you could brush under the carpet and say, oh, but they're so kind and that's just them and that's from their dad. But it's not just that they're rude to waiters, right? It's a whole other thing. And that type of thing that you notice at the beginning, it could be something that you'd be brought up in 10 years' time in therapy because it's not just the waiters, you know?
Yep, absolutely. That's a perfect example of something that you see at the beginning. You're like, oh, it's not a big deal. Yeah.
So yeah, and it can snowball. Yeah, so paying attention, that's good advice.
Yep. One of our beta testers that was in our original groups, um, a young woman, young 30s woman, met a guy on the apps, and one of her criteria, we might have talked about this, but one of her criteria was that she wanted to date someone who was at least 6 feet tall. So this guy said he was 6 feet tall. She meets him, and he's only 5'10". And he said straight up, yeah, I put that I'm 6 feet tall because a lot of women won't date me if they know I'm under 6 feet tall. So there were two lessons that came out of this. One, she really liked the guy. He was a nice guy. And she learned, like, oh, maybe the height's not the most important thing because he's a great guy. He's only 5'10". Second thing she learned, though, is that if someone's going to lie about their height, they're probably going to lie about other things.
Right.
And that's what ended up happening. So he ended up being not honest about other things too. And so it was a good lesson all the way around, that she learned that the height wasn't as important, but she also learned to pay attention that if somebody's going to lie about something as small as that in their profile, they probably have some honesty issues.
Interesting. Interesting. It was there right at the beginning.